will continue for a few minutes. So, in situ biodiversity conservation and ex situ. Ex situ in situ when we conserve in the natural habitat. For example, like Avranil said that in the natural setup, like Kaziranga National Park. Okay, that is a natural setup. If you go to run, means there are different national parks, or you can say places where uh, it is a free place of those species to live in their natural ecosystem. But when you look at the ex situ conservation, means you take them out of their natural setup and you prepare a artificial setup which seems to be natural but not exactly, like zoos, botanical garden, aquarium, seed banks and all. That is called ex situ conservation. Artificially, you provide them one atmosphere or ecosystem where they can feel like being in natural, and intense care can be taken for them. Okay, so conservation, it is important is use of indigenous knowledge to conserve biodiversity. It involves local community in the conservation process. It's if there is a man and animal conflict or man and wildlife conflict, then it is going to be very difficult for the survival of both means all the wild species. For example, now you can you must be reading in newspapers in so many places there is killing of elephants, and there is poaching of tigers and other wildlife animals. So that is a serious issue. Oh, but if people understand the value of wildlife, what is their uh, position in a food chain or food web, or the balancing of the ecosystem, like we have discussed that keystone species. If you remember keystone species, if the keystone species die, then suddenly there will be imbalance in the ecosystem. Because let's say if tiger dies, then there will not be control on the herbivores, like maybe deer or rabbit or other animals. So if that will happen, then they in a very short time span they will clear the vegetation. So when there will be not be means you know, plants and bushes and herbs will no more, then definitely other animals will also get affected. So it is very important for the tiger or the leopards or the wolves to live in the ecosystem, because they are the keystone species who control the ecosystem. Okay, so that is very much important. So that's why in many places local communities are being empowered. They are in the charge of saving the forest. Of course they also get benefits out of that, means they collect the forest products, and they look after the forest. They save the trees, they save the forest, and they also get a part of their livelihood from the forest. So involvement of the local community in the conservation process makes the local community empowered and economically support for them. At the same time, this biodiversity also can get conserved. Okay, so since ages means man and ecosystem, man and biodiversity, they are in close contact with each other. So many of the villagers or local communities, they have the traditional knowledge how to deal with the wildlife. So that need to be taken. That knowledge need to be shared, and at the same time, I told that compensate the community for the knowledge they share. Whatever the knowledge, scientific means our, it may be government or it may be the people who are working on the development sector, they take from these people, so it should be compensated in some way. So national park and reserves are generally known as in situ conservation. Ex situ conservation protects species in the place away from their natural habitat, like zoo, botanical garden. So national park is a in situ conservation or ex situ conservation? Can you hear me?
In situ.
Very good, very good. Who said this?
Amandeep.
Roll number
16.
16. Good. Amandeep, why you were absent in the second class?
Sir?
Why you were absent in the second class?
Sir, I was out of the town. So
Okay. 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 Convention has three main goals. One is conservation of biodiversity, then sustainable use of the components of biodiversity, and sharing the benefits arising from the commercial and other utilization of genetic resources in the way among the community. So ex situ conservation in India. So 35 botanical gardens are here. 275 zoos, deer parks, aquaria, national parks, of course, in situ conservation, and wildlife sanctuaries comes under in situ conservation, reserve forest, tiger reserves, safari park, biosphere. Okay, so there is national biodiversity plan. You can it is there in the book. You can just read. It's better, we don't have much time, so it's better. I'll tell you whatever units we'll be discussing in the next class. It's better you have a glance, and so that if you do have some doubts, we can discuss in the class. It will be easy for us to complete the course on time. Are you getting it?
Yes, sir.
Are you only person in the class? By the way, thank you. But what about others? Are you all here?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
fine,
Yes, sir.
fine. At least I can hear means 5-10 of you. Good. So let us take you through the important concepts. So in 1989, the African elephants was declared an endangered species. Elephants were disappearing primarily due to ivory trade. By 2000, however, the elephant population had recovered in Namibia, Botswana, and Zimbabwe. It is one of the success story of CITES. So CITES says it is an initiative to save wildlife. The conservation bans the hunting, capturing, and selling of and threatened species. It lists over 900 species and cannot be traded as live specimens. So, you must be knowing that we do have a law in our country. If somebody is trading or capturing the wildlife or endangered species or any species from wild area, then there is a criminal proceeding against them. There is means rigorous imprisonment and other law are against them. But in many countries, it is not that strict. So so you can also see the story of Bhutan, how it's it's take care of the biodiversity and its natural setups very well. How it conserves the forest at the same time they keep on afforestation. So in fact, it is one of the biodiversity hotspots. So Bhutan is a rare biologically diverse country that has an active program of conservation. That's why that is the only country which is carbon negative. Whatever carbon they emit, more than that they conserve or they take out from the atmosphere. So that is the reason they are known as a carbon negative country. So the story of Romulus Whitaker, what is conserving snake and crocodile. So these are the community that are expert in snake catching and how they have contributed to the wildlife conservation. You can read the story. So you can watch this video. Okay, fine. I think the internet is slow. So we can protect species in their habitat or away from the habitat. So each process has its pros and cons. So while there has been an increase in the number of and area covered by the world's reserve, the management of many of the reserves is not satisfactory. So it is not only by declaring that some place is a reserve or a national park or it's a botanical garden or a zoo, that is enough. Rather than management of the wildlife maybe in their own setup in situ or in a artificial setup is pretty much challenging. So that's why of course initiation and policies, rules and regulation for that, it's okay, but practical execution is also very much important. So seed banks, zoos and botanical garden are important for biodiversity conservation, but they are beset with many difficulties. There are a range of international conservation convention and agreement to promote biodiversity conservation. The most important being Convention the under plan all their book. So please read if you don't anything um, in this your
Sir, your
book.
voice is
So
breaking.
now is it audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I was saying that you please read your book, and in this chapter, first 3 chapters, if you find any concept difficulty for you, then please write it down in your WhatsApp group, and definitely I'll be revert back to you. Okay. So let us see who can answer this question. So
Sir, option C.
Sir, option C.
Aniket and Afsana.
Sir, A.
Okay.
So option C.
So Aniket is saying option C.
Yes, sir.
So who is any apart from Aniket, who all have answered? Can you please tell me your options?
Sir,
Please
sir,
read the questions correctly before you answer. It is written, which of the following method is not in situ conservation? So you can now find what is in situ and which is not. Not in situ means which one among is the ex situ conservation. Okay. So please read it and tell me.
So A.
Ritik is saying A. Anybody else who
sir,
is saying
A.
some other?
Actually.
Sir, A.
Sir, A.
Yes, sir. Option A.
Is it you people are saying option A?
Sir, option B, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Hansraj?
sir.
Option A, sir.
Okay. Everybody is saying option A, so it may be option A. Let us check. What is the option?
Option B.
Option B.
Then how come you people didn't? Anybody of you didn't say option B? So we discussed that in situ conservation is when it is national park, it is in situ. When it is biosphere reserve, it is in situ. When establishing a reserve forest means it's in situ. Means because birds and animals are in its own place. But we discussed that zoo, seed bank, all these are ex situ. So whenever in your exam you will be answering the MCQs, you have to be very, very careful. Are you getting it?
Yes, sir.
You
Yes, sir.
have
Yes,
to be
sir.
very careful what is asked. Anybody? That's why I told you. You read the question. It is not in situ means it is ex situ. Are you all clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, option A.
Option A. Sir, option A, sir.
Amandeep,
Sir,
Sir
A.
A.
Sir, A.
Sir
Option
A.
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 okay,
A.
A, sir.
fine. So I can hear means first Amandeep and Kirti. Amandeep, roll number
16. Sir, 16.
yes. And Kirti, roll number 52. Kirti. Okay. So let us go to the next question.
Sir, option A.
Sir A.
Sir, A.
Sir,
Sir
A.
A.
Option A.
A.
Okay. You all are saying option A.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Which is the most important international agreement of conservation all biodiversity? Let us check. Very good. So who all have said at the beginning?
Sir, 25.
Sir 45.
So it was Apurva, Aniket, I guess,
Yes, sir.
Yes,
and
sir.
Hansraj.
Yes, sir.
So 25, 45, 20. So it was 20, 25, and
45.
45. So what is visible to you now? What is visible in your screen?
Sir, the previous question only. Which is the most important international agreement for
Okay, fine.
conserving our bio? Yeah.
Fine.
Sir, option C.
Sir, C.
Sir, C.
Sir, C.
Sir, C.
So Ritik and who else?
Sir, Afsana.
Sir, Lavina.
Afsana. So what is your roll number? Ritik,
Sir, 48.
48. Afsana,
Sir, 9.
and who else was there?
Sir, Lovelina.
Yes, Lavlina. Lavlina, what is your roll number?
Sir, 54.
54. Okay. Now we'll be going to the next chapter. Okay. So how many sections altogether you have? The students have reduced to 42. Okay. So yes, Apuba, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you apart from A, B, how many sections you have?
Sir, I don't know.
So in BCom we have 2 sections and from BBM we have 2 sections.
Okay. So in BCom you have 2 sections, and in BBM you have 2
3
sections.
sections, sir.
3
For
sections
BBM.
BPM.
Okay, BBM three sections, and for BCom you are 2 sections.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So presently in this class it is from BCom only, or there are also students from BBM?
No, sir, in this class
So
only
only
BCom
BCom.
section A is there.
Only BCom, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Fine. Do you have any? Do you know that how far the other sections have studied? How much course they have covered? Any friend do you have in BBM? Because BCom 2 sections I only take. So
No, sir.
no. Okay, just give me a minute. So today today we'll be finishing the first chapter, maybe from the unit 4. Otherwise it is unit 3 in your book, that is from renewable and non-renewable natural resources. So first we will discuss the water resources. So what is your understanding on water resources? Anybody? Is it a renewable resource or non-renewable resource?
So non-renewable. The fresh water is non-renewable.
Non-renewable.
Fresh water is non-renewable.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we'll see. So water is the basis of life. It is a gift of nature. It belongs to living being on earth. Water is not a private property. It is a common resources for the sustenance of all. So here we'll discuss what are renewable and non-renewable natural resources. How much water do we need and how much do we have? It is a very interesting statistics. We'll see why is there a worldwide water scarcity and what are the possible solutions to the water crisis. All these things we'll be discussing, and so how many do you have anybody from Northeast here? No? Okay. Have you anybody been to Cherrapunji? Meghalaya?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So Meghalaya means Garo, Khasi Hills. Means apart from that, there are Gangtok. Yes,
Garo Khasi Jayanti.
yes, right. So the story is very interesting. So it's about Cherrapunji. Cherrapunji is listed in geography book as the wettest place on earth. So you know how much rain happens to be there in Cherrapunji? Any idea?
Sir, I don't know the like fact how much like the figures how much rain happens, but it can rain like any time in the day.
Okay, good.
It
So
rains the most there, sir. Like,
right, Prachi. So Cherrapunji is it could continuously continuous rain for 2 months. So, and artist stress sometimes maybe for a couple of weeks you will not get to see sun over there. Okay, so average annual rainfall is 11.5 meter. So in 1974 the place received 24.5 meter of rain and record for one day 15.63 mm. So, do you know what is the average rainfall of India? Do you have any understanding? No? The average rainfall of India is something around 1200 mm or 1250 mm. So that let's say 1200 mm. Do anybody know what is the average rainfall of Odisha? Any idea? Anybody, any one of you can guess?
so 200.
200. It's don't you feel it's very scanty? Okay.
Centimeter.
So when I'm saying the national average is 1200 mm, so what do you think? Whether Odisha get more water than the national average or less water than the national average? Whether Odisha is a water shortage state or it is a water surplus state? Do you feel that we get enough rain or no? The rain,
Sir, there is
there is
sufficient rain.
scarcity of rainfall. Okay, Hansraj is saying there is sufficient rain. Anybody else?
So more rain.
More rain. SI is saying more rain. Okay. So, right, it is more than the national average. So we get something around 1400, 1450, less than 1500 mm of rain per annum. So what amount of rain we get per annum, you can see more than that amount of rain Cherrapunji received in a day. So you can imagine how wet is that place. It's for you to correlate, for you to understand. Okay. So, but you look what happened to Cherrapunji. So how come, though having plentiful of rain in rainy season, so how come it faces severe drought the rest of the year? Okay. My screen is visible to you? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what happened? How come means such a huge amount of water that people in Cherrapunji receive, but they face a drought? So the answer lies in the destruction of forests. So once upon a time, the hill around Cherrapunji were full of dense forests. These forests soaked up the heavy rain and released it slowly the rest of the year. So it conserves the rain it gets. So over the years, however, the forests were cut down. The heavy rains washed away the topsoil of that place, turning the slopes into desert. So now Cherrapunji is a mining town. So people now making their living out of extraction of coal and chalk. These two mining activity. So now the air is dusty. It chokes the lives out of people. So there is no reservoir to store the water that they get in the rainy season. Of course, there is no forest now. So water cannot percolate down and it cannot stay for more time. Rather than it flows, and with the flow it takes the topsoil and makes the land or the rocks barren, not suitable, not fitted for vegetation. So for over 20 years, the residents have depended on piped water supply that comes from a far place. And the supply is always erratic and quite not dependable. So traditionally, people of Cherrapunji who used to celebrate the arrival of rains every year with elaborate festival. Whereas now the rain god do respond generously for 4 months. Nevertheless, people do not have enough water for next 8 months. They get enough water for 4 months, but rest 8 months is very difficult for them. So Cherrapunji is no longer the wettest place on earth. The nearby village, Maishanaram, now gets more rain than Cherrapunji. So what is the summary? That if we don't take care of the nature, then it is not possible for us to get the ecosystem services that we receive. And we have to spend a lot to get the things that we used to get free of cost from the nature. The health we cannot revert back. The nature we cannot rebuild. The atmosphere that is already dusty, poisoned, that will definitely have impact on the life, livelihood, health, and many other things. Do you understand? Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we'll discuss what is renewable and non-renewable natural resources. So of course, few of you told that water is a non-renewable natural resources, but we are fortunate that we get water every year back. A natural resource is anything that we take from the environment to meet our need. So it may be iron ore, it may be gold, silver, and any other metals, whatever air, wind, coal, natural gases, whatever we get that are example of natural resources. So, for example, some resources like water can be used as they are, whereas other like petroleum needs some processing before use. We put a deep borewell or dig a dog well or a pond, we can utilize that water directly. Of course, if it is drinking after a little purification, but for domestic purpose, you can utilize that directly. But what about other natural resources? Maybe gold, maybe petroleum, whatever, you need to have some processing before you. So, one is solar energy, second is water, plants, petroleum, minerals, all these things are natural resources. Okay. So, whatever we are taking, nature requires some time to replenish the natural resources. So, for example, a forest that is cut down will grow back over years. What we need for that? Provided the land is left undisturbed. If we keep on disturbing the land every now and then of course that forest will not regenerate. But if we'll leave it to grow, then we may get that forest back in that place. So if we use water in a well carefully, it will get replenished in a dog well or bore well. However, we draw water faster than the rate of replenishment. So let's say we do have certain amount of water in a well and we pumped it out. Now it is dry. Then you leave it for a couple of days. Again, it will full with water. So let's say we have taken 1000 liters of water today from a well. So it will take few hours to get replenished. But if we take gallons of water, then it will go dry for some time, but it will take a couple of days maybe to replenish. So we have to be careful and sometimes we utilize the water so rapidly that the natural resource doesn't get time to get replenished. Okay. So, fresh water, clean air, fresh topsoil, forest, and fish. This can be replenished. This can be the sun and wind that belongs to a special class of renewable resources. All these things I told: fresh water, clean air, fresh topsoil, forest, fresh fish, all these take some time to get replenished. So these are renewable natural resources. But the sun and the wind, these two are special class of renewable resources. They are inexhaustible natural resources. Okay, how much you use, but it is not going to be exhausted. So a non-renewable natural resource is available as a finite amount on the earth and doesn't replenish itself over the human time scale. We live for 60, 70, 80 or 100 years. So non-renewable natural resources is one which doesn't get replenished by the time we die. So it takes millions, billions of years to formulate it. So the petroleum that we are using, the coal, the other natural resources that is inside the earth crust, that take years together to regenerate. So it cannot be possible in the human lifetime. Okay. So we have been depleting many natural resources over the last 2 centuries since the Industrial Revolution. So what will happen? We'll exhaust such resources at some time or other. You look at the increase in crude rate oil, the demand supply. So the crude oil, the natural gases, and all the minerals we do have, that is having a certain time period, time span. After that, it is going to be exhaust from the earth. But water is a unique resource. Water is prerequisite for the existence of life on earth. So human beings, animals, plants cannot survive without water. The human body itself is mostly water. So when the water of the body drops by 1%, then we feel thirsty. But if drops 10% in the body, then there is a chance of death. Okay, so water is very important. May it be for the transportation, you take the sea route or the river route, maybe it for environmental stability, biodiversity support, then conservation of biodiversity, food security, and healthcare. So in most cases, there is no substitute to water. That is very important. So in the case of energy, you can depend on many sources. You can replace it. But water, there is no replacement. But the beauty of water is that you can reuse it several times. Are you all clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you see it? How much water do we need every day? So for flushing toilet, at least you are using 40 liters of water. Clothing, gardening, washing utensils, cooking, and drinking are almost, you can see, very less. in comparison to others? So absolute minimum water requirement for domestic use is 50 liter per person per day. Otherwise, 100-200 liters is often recommended for a person to have a comfortable living. So minimum annual per capita requirement is about 1700 cubic meters of water. So what is virtual water or water footprint? Anybody knows? So we have already discussed ecological footprint in our first chapter. Okay, virtual water and water footprint. What is that? You just watch a small video. Maybe that will be helpful for you to understand the concept. Is it clear to you? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So is it clear to you what is water footprint? Yes? Can anybody read this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Summary poster.
Yes.
Apart from the direct use of water for our needs, there is also an indirect use of water in making many items that we eat, drink, or use. Every agriculture and industrial process uses lot of water to produce different products. This water is often hidden from us, known as virtual water. Water footprint is an indicator that measures both direct and virtual water use of a consumer or producer. The concept of water footprint is similar to that of ecological footprint. The water footprint of a product is the volume of fresh water used up to produce the item. taking into account the volumes of water consumed and polluted in different steps of the supply chain. Water footprint of a country equals to yearly amount of domestic water used to produce all goods and services consumed within the country plus yearly amount of virtual water in the goods and services imported in the country minus yearly amount of virtual water in the goods and services exported from the country. We get the per capita water footprint by dividing the total amount consumed by the population of the country.
Okay, Abhishek, thank you. Fine. So are you clear now? Is it clear to you what is water footprint? Okay, let me explain you what is water footprint. So the amount of water we utilize, okay, so that can be direct water or indirect water. So the amount of or the volume of fresh water that a person use we can say that is the water footprint for that person. But exactly, let's say there is a potato chips. What is the water footprint of that potato chips? So now we'll say that there is no water in the potato chips. How come how come we calculate the water footprint of a potato chips? But to grow the potato, to clean it, to pack it, to process it, the amount of water we utilize in the process, that is otherwise known as the water footprint of the potato chips. But when it comes to you with a sophisticated packet, maybe Lay's or Uncle Chips or whatever maybe, to prepare that wrapper or the packet also, water is utilized. So altogether, when it comes to your plate, so if you calculate the amount of water utilized for that potato chips, that is otherwise known as water footprint of that product. Let's say, for example, the pair of jeans you are using, starting from the raw material, from the end product, from the washing, from the cleaning, everything, you will find that certain amount of water is used. So that is otherwise known as the water footprint. But let's say let's understand what is virtual water. What is means direct water. As you saw the video, means let's say direct whatever water you use, that is your direct water for, let's say, for drinking, for taking bath. But apart from that, you also need some water for your day-to-day life. For example, the laptop you are using, the energy that you are using to run the laptop, and the let's say the vehicle you are running, everything all together, it is water is used to prepare that product, service, or whatever may be. So that is otherwise known as virtual water. Are you all clear what is water footprint and what is virtual water?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you want to calculate the water footprint of a country, then what you will do? You will take the yearly amount of domestic water used to produce all goods and services. Maybe an IT company, maybe a service industry, maybe a production, maybe a material industry, maybe agriculture, maybe food and beverage, whatever. So the amount of water utilized to produce all goods and services in domestic, that is direct water. Then yearly amount of virtual water in the goods and services imported into the country. Let's say for goods and services inside the country, you used n gallons of water. Then you also imported a sophisticated car, or let's say microchips and other related items to the country. It must have utilized some water at the point of origin in its country and in the transport and everything. So you have to add that amount of water. And you have to minus the yearly amount of virtual water in the forms of goods and services that you export. So it's import, whatever you import, that will be included in your water footprint, and what will be export, that will be minus from your water footprint, so that you will get the water footprint of a country. Are you all clear?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, what do you mean by virtual water?
You say me what you understand by virtual water.
Basically, I understand it's not real, like not in physical form, but don't have any idea beyond that.
Okay, right. You are absolutely on right track. Virtual water in the sense when you use a if you can remember somewhere, okay, we'll see it in our maybe our next slides. So you know, when in a house now you are using oil for cooking.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that oil is in some form, but the oil is either from sunflower or from mustard or from groundnut. To grow that sunflower, groundnut, or mustard, the farmer must have used some amount of water.
Surely.
Then it came to the industry for the processing. Some amount of water is used in the processing. Then it packaged, packed, then for the transportation altogether, the vehicle transported it. So in the whole together, in the process of that packet, that liter of oil that reached you, that incurred some amount of water at the back, which is not visible, but that can be calculated in the process. So that is otherwise known as the virtual water.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the direct water that you utilize, that is real water in our day-to-day life. May it be 50 liters of water or 100 liters of water. But apart from that, all the gadgets, vehicle, and whatever we are using, that consumed some amount of water in its life cycle. So that is otherwise known as the virtual water. Okay. You can see it, direct use of water. Okay. So you can see a bottle of water is 1 liter of water. But if for A4 size paper, how much water you need? 10 liters of water. When you are throwing a A4 sheet because of a wrong printing or little bit here and there, then you think that how much water is, because paper is produced from wood or maybe from molasses or from sugarcane molasses or straw or leaf or wood, whatever. And to produce that raw material, it needs a lot of water. And again, to prepare that raw material which can produce A4 size sheet, that also need water in the processing. So like that, 100 grams of potato, you need 25 liters of water to produce it. Like that, for a cup of coffee, you can see 140 liters of water, means 125 ml of coffee we are sipping. but in the process 140 liter of water is used. So like that, you can see a pair of bovine leather shoes, it consumes almost 8,000 liters of water. 1 liter of beer is 3,000 liters of water. Cotton t-shirt of 500 grams is 4,001 liters of water. Okay. So use the resources judiciously, and you read till the chapter water. You read chapter 1, then chapter 2 ecosystem, then chapter 4, that is biodiversity of your book, then chapter 3, unit 3, unit 1, 2 and 4 must, then unit 3 you read the water. That much will come in your exam. Are you all clear?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me, all of you, please come live, and let me take a, because right now 46 participants are there. So let me take a screenshot